The history of the world is shaped by trade, innovation, and migration, but few events have left a deeper, darker scar on humanity than the transatlantic slave trade, a system of forced migration and brutal commerce that spanned over for centuries. From the 16th to the 19th century, this trade ripped an estimated 12.5 million Africans from their homes, sending them across the Atlantic to the Americas. This journey, and the brutal labor that followed, fundamentally built the economic foundation of the New World while destroying countless lives and societies in Africa. This is the history of the Atlantic Triangle, a chilling look at one of the largest forced movements of people in human history. The practice of slavery existed for millennia in many cultures, including African societies. However, the transatlantic system was unique in its massive scale, its industrial efficiency, and its racial underpinning. The catalyst was the European colonization of the Americas. As settlers established vast sugar, tobacco, and cotton plantations, they required an enormous, reliable, and free labor force. Indigenous populations were rapidly decimated by European diseases and brutal exploitation, forcing the colonists to look elsewhere. By the early 16th century, the Portuguese and Spanish pioneered the practice, soon followed by the British, French, and Dutch. They established fortified trading posts, known as factories or castles, along the West African coast. Africans were acquired in complex and brutal ways. Some were prisoners of war from inter-kingdom conflicts. Others were kidnapped by European traders or by African middlemen who received European goods like textiles, rum, and firearms in return. This trade cycle fueled instability and continuous conflict across West Africa, making the transaction of human lives an economic necessity for some coastal African kingdoms. The journey across the Atlantic, known as the Middle Passage, was the most horrifying leg of the triangle. It was a voyage of absolute despair that lasted anywhere from 2 to 4 months. Africans were branded, stripped, and crammed into the dark, suffocating holds of custom-built slave ships. They were chained together, often without room to sit up or move, forced to endure unimaginable sanitary conditions. Disease was rampant, with outbreaks of dysentery, smallpox, and measles spreading quickly through the packed quarters. The death toll was catastrophic. Historians estimate that 15% to 20% of the enslaved people died during the Middle Passage, their bodies often simply thrown overboard. Those who survived were psychologically and physically scarred. Yet, even in the depths of the hold, the spirit of resistance flickered. There were numerous documented shipboard revolts. Though few were successful, most were brutally suppressed, yet they stand as a testament to the unyielding human desire for freedom. Upon arrival in the Americas, the survivors were prepared for sale through a process called seasoning, which aimed to break their will and prepare them for plantation labor. Upon disembarking in ports like Charleston, South Carolina, or Kingston, Jamaica, the survivors faced the final humiliation of the slave auction. Families already separated from their homeland were often torn apart forever as individuals were sold to the highest bidder in the Americas. The enslaved became the foundation of the cash crop economy. In the Caribbean and Brazil, they powered the brutal sugar plantations. In the American South, they worked vast fields of tobacco, rice, and later, cotton. Life on the plantation was a cycle of relentless, back-breaking labor. From sunup to sundown, they were subjected to constant surveillance, extreme cruelty, and dehumanization. Whippings, torture, and murder were common tools used to maintain order and maximize productivity. Despite the terror, enslaved people developed rich cultural forms. They preserved elements of their diverse African heritage through storytelling, music, dance, and clandestine religious practices, creating a vibrant African American culture that sustained their hope and identity in the face of absolute bondage. The history of the transatlantic slave trade is also a history of fierce resistance. Enslaved Africans never accepted their condition passively. Resistance took many forms, from slowing down work, breaking tools, and poisoning overseers, to the ultimate act of defiance, running away. Those who escaped often formed independent communities known as maroon societies, particularly in the dense forests and mountains of the Caribbean and South America. The most profound and successful resistance was the Haitian Revolution 1791 to 1804. Led by Toussaint Louverture, the enslaved people of the French colony of Saint-Domingue fought a brutal, successful war for independence, creating the first free black republic and sending shockwaves of fear and inspiration across the Atlantic world. In the United States, figures like Nat Turner led revolts, while the Underground Railroad served as a network of safe houses and routes, helping thousands escape to freedom in the North and Canada. The rising tide of Enlightenment ideals, combined with continuous resistance from the enslaved, and the tireless efforts of abolitionist movements in Europe and the Americas, gradually turned the economic tide against the trade. Key milestones include: 1807, Britain officially abolishes the slave trade, though not slavery itself. 1808, the United States bans the importation of new slaves. 1833, slavery is abolished throughout the British Empire. 1865, the 13th Amendment abolishes slavery in the United States. 1888, Brazil becomes the last major country in the Americas to formally abolish slavery. Yet, abolition was not an ending. It was a transition. The legacy of the trade racism, economic disparity, and political instability continues to echo powerfully in our modern world. The wealth generated by the forced labor of millions created an imbalanced world order whose effects we continue to grapple with today. The transatlantic slave trade was a historical trauma of staggering magnitude. It was an economic system built on the systematic dehumanization of an entire people. By remembering the names, the suffering, and the incredible resilience of the millions who endured the Middle Passage, we honor their memory. The story of this triangle is not merely a chapter in history. It is a vital ongoing lesson in the cost of human greed and the enduring, unbreakable spirit of freedom.